why customers choose Cloud ERP. And we're so excited we have Don Yeager with us today and Brad Morrow. We also have Richard Duffy, who will be talking through the presentation. Brad Morrow is in channel development, and Don Yeager is the director of partner recruiting. So I just want to start with a couple of housekeeping notes, if I may. There's a couple buttons next to your name on the webinar pane. There's a little hand button, and there's a question mark button. I would just ask that if you do have a question throughout the presentation, go ahead and click on that question mark button. And at the end of the presentation, we will announce the question so that Richard or Don or Brad may answer your question. And if you do feel comfortable enough to speak live your question, I will go ahead and unmute your line if you click on that hand button. So that'll tell me that you'd like to speak live, and we can collaborate live. That kind of makes it a little bit more clear when we're answering the question. We can make sure that you understand the answer and we understand the question correctly. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Richard get started. Thank you, Richard.
Well, one thing I thought I would do, this is Dawn, so I just wanted to say, since I've had the opportunity to talk to so many of you in the past, wanted to thank you for attending today. Really appreciate your interest in Acumatica, and you'll learn a lot more about our company, our product, what separates us and differentiates us from the competition, and why you should really be considering Acumatica. So again, thank you so much for taking this time to spend with us. And I thought I'd just briefly introduce Richard and his role. Richard is the VP of Partner Strategy and Enablement, and he's also Acumatica's product evangelist. So he wears many hats, and he wears them all very, very well. Part of that is due to his vast experience in this space. So prior to coming to Acumatica, he had 11 years with SAP on the Business One team, first managing a country, then a region, and when he left, he was in a global role. So that he brings a lot of skills and resources and knowledge of the channel to Acumatica, and we couldn't be happier to have him here. Prior to SAP, Richard was with Great Plains and Microsoft for 6 years, and I'm pleased to tell you that he's very uniquely qualified to understand what your challenges and your issues and your desires might be in looking for another vendor or product to represent, because he also spent 13 years as a business partner himself. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Richard, and thank you so much again for joining us.
Great, thank you very much, Dawn. And I just wanted to make sure that that everyone is able to hear me. So Dawn, just if you can give me a quick audio check, that would be super.
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. So again, thank you for taking the time to join us for today's presentation. I'm not going to go through, too much preamble. I'm just going to rocket straight in and start making sure that we deliver value. So again, please feel free at any point in time to ask a question by putting up your hand using the little go to webinar panel. And we'll, if I can, I'll stop for questions during the session, but we'll certainly make sure we leave time at the end of our session today. So many of you, you've already seen our agenda when you signed up for today's session. So we want to talk a little bit about, and in no particular order, by the way, but we want to talk a little bit about a couple of key things: technology, what it means to be a pure cloud solution, and then I'm going to give you a short demonstration of Acumatica and give you access to a demo system so you can actually see for yourself exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about the flexibility that Acumatica offers you as a value-added reseller in terms of how you can give your customers what they want in regard to deployment options, configuration, and pricing. We're going to talk a lot about, well, actually not a heck of a lot, but we're going to give you a good overview of our partnership model, because one of the things that does differentiate Acumatica from many of the other vendors on the market today is we are 100% channel-centric. and we have a very unique partner program that makes it easy for you to work with a level playing field and work with a high degree of certainty in terms of what's going to happen with your relationship with a vendor, which I think it's not too fine a point to put on it these days. Is very difficult to find out there in today's market, with many vendors spending more time focusing on their bottom line and their investors rather than worrying about channel partners and customers. So we're going to look at the product. You're going to see the solution in action. And again, I would encourage you, when I'm doing this, feel free to play along. If you've got an iPhone or a Galaxy Tab or a Note or a browser, feel free to open up an additional session and use that. Then we're going to give you the ability to view some testimonials from other partners who are probably in a similar situation to you, who have sat there and said, well, what is this cloud ERP or cloud accounting software, call it what you will, what does this opportunity mean to me? And you'll hear from them why they made the decision to take advantage of what we have to offer and take up what we like to call the partner advantage with Acumatica. And then, of course, we're going to get into some Q&A. So with that, let's just quickly set the stage and talk about the evolution of ERP. And I'm what hopefully my boss lovingly calls an ERP dinosaur. I was around in the 80s when we used to run green screen technology. And I'm sure some of you on today's presentation will remember this, where we started off with, accounting systems running on PCs with 2 floppy drives. The big issue there, custom development, very expensive, clunky UIs, user interfaces, very limited features and functionality, and they're expensive to maintain and difficult to upgrade. We then moved to the 90s with the advent of client server, the first big revolution in our software area. Still the same challenge though, expensive custom development. You're chained to the desktop, very difficult to collaborate with partners and customers, and the biggest thing was if the network connection went down, your system went down, so it didn't support statelessness. We then hit, and I always like saying this, we then hit the turn of the century. It always makes me feel old when I can say this. I feel like Rip Van Winkle, I just woke up again in a new century. We got to that point where you started to see the first generation of web-based applications, still though difficult to customize. Vendor and data lock-in and price increases were common. And there was a very big challenge with integrating with on-premise systems, so trying to tie these solutions together was difficult. Why? Because a lot of them were native web-based interfaces, so if you had to pick a browser of choice and then you had to pick the technology stack that was supported by that browser. But we're now in a situation where really cloud ERP has come of age. We now are in a situation where with solutions like Acumatica and others that are on the market today, they're easier to integrate. They have extensible platforms. They support responsive design, so they easily adapt to multiple screen sizes. You've got these different technology and deployment options. You can deploy into a private or a public cloud, and you have, for some vendors, in particular for Acumatica, we offer flexible deployment and pricing models and true utility computing where you pay for what you use. But there are some things which really do differentiate the Acumatica solution, and I think really differentiate the Acumatica solution in terms of what you may be looking for as an enterprise resource planning evaluative reseller, which is really about making sure that you can unlock your business potential as a VAR, whilst at the same time making sure that you deliver on the promise of enterprise resource planning, which is really around unlocking your customer's business potential. And that's what we like to think about when we talk about Acumatica. Now, many people go, well, hang on, where does Acumatica fit into the market space? There's so many of these different choices out there, and there's so many different choices that I can make in terms of the products that I can take to market. And let's look at this first and foremost from a customer's perspective, because at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say that's the reason why we're all here, because we are servicing a particular customer segment. At Acumatica, we believe that our solution is ideally positioned for mid-market businesses, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. we came up with this mechanism to help people understand, what's a good way of choosing which of these solutions you should look at. And if enterprise resource planning is all about business process automation, then why should it be about the number of users or the amount of revenue or the number of employees your organization has? It should really be about your business processes. So we took a look at this and we said, well, the best way to look at it is as a customer, and then for you as a partner thinking about your customers, the best way to look at this is, well, what's the business process complexity that they have to manage? Is it simple, moderate, or high? It gives an example of where you go from simple to moderate, and then moderate to high business process complexity might be depending on your industry. If you're in pharmaceutical manufacturing, you've got a high degree of government regulation that you have to map and manage. So that's an example where your business process complexity may be high. You have to have full end-to-end track and trace from raw material manufacture right through to the end supply chain distribution, right down to which pharmacy delivered which batch of medications to which end consumers. So that's an example of moderate business complexity, business process complexity. Then you add the volume to that, and normally with volume of transactions and size of business, those business processes become a little bit more complex. And you can probably hear bells ringing in the background. That's because I've got my Android device on standby just in case I need to give you guys a demo on that as well. But one of the things that we offer is that level of business process complexity, the ability to automate all of that on any device that you choose. Okay, so hopefully that helps you get an understanding of where Acumatica fits. But you know what? You've probably seen this yourself. As soon as you think you've got a customer pegged according to which product or which segment of the market they're in, they'll explain to you something that they do in their business, something about their business process that makes you go, wow, maybe I need to rethink what I'm offering to them as a solution. We believe that Acumatica certainly helps you address that. So there's a couple of key things as a value-added reseller when you start thinking about the potential that's out there in the market. You start thinking about, well, what are customers looking for? It's fair to say Acumatica, we started off in 2007. All right, we started off building a business process automation platform that was built for the cloud, built to be used in a web browser, built to be deployed over the internet using just a TCP/IP stack. But then we looked at our business process automation platform and said, you know what? Because the founders of the company that were building that were all enterprise resource planning veterans coming from a background doing Solomon, or what is now called Dynamics SL. They said this is a great platform on which to build an enterprise resource planning product. So that's what they did. And then they said, all right, well, when we build a product, it has to really focus on delivering against three key areas. First and foremost, enterprise resource planning has to help your customer take control of their business. Okay, so it's got to be able to do the core things. It's got to have the core functionality that I need to be able to run my business. Second thing, it has to enable the customer to play to their strengths. So it has to be able to give them the ability to adapt quickly to changing market requirements, being able to adapt quickly to new business models, to changes in the way that customers expect to transact, being able to change quickly to adapt to the way that supply chains are being structured and restructured. And the third thing, and most fundamental, if you talk to most of your customers, they will tell you their most expensive resource, depending on the industry, but the majority, probably 80% of customers will tell you the most expensive resource is their people. So we knew that when we were building Acumatica, we had to make sure that we were empowering those people to do their jobs effectively. So those are the three key areas that we focused on when we built Acumatica. And then that broke down into a couple of core product suites: financial management, project accounting, distribution, and customer management. So if you like, the beauty parade of functionality that's there, that, if you think about it as an ERP vendor, what's the core tenet of doing business and going in and implementing a new solution for a customer. It's a little bit like being a doctor. You know, the Hippocratic Oath starts off, first, do no harm. So you must be able to make sure you can continue to deliver the core functionality they need to keep running. And of course, that's what Acumatica does. But then we take it one step further. I'm going to give you one more slide here. We're going to talk a little bit about the stack, and then I'm going to dive in and give you a quick demonstration of the Acumatica solution. All right, and then again, as I said, I'm not going to go through each of those key points that we talked about in our introduction in an overly structured process, but I am going to make sure we cover off on every single one of them. So talking about technology and talking about the Acumatica stack, we built the Acumatica cloud platform first and foremost, and that is the, if you like, the architecture, the plumbing that allows us and our partners to build complete cloud-based enterprise resource planning applications and the complementary solutions that supplement that functionality. And it gives us the capability to do all these different things: multi-tenancy, single sign-on, role-based user access, multiple devices using tablet and touch screens, being able to take advantage of cloud databases like Amazon's remote database platform, being able to run on SQL Server and MySQL, being able to support workflows, and so on and so forth. So we built that platform first and foremost. Then on top of that, we built our core application suites. And you can see, again, talking about the beauty parade of functionality, we built those application suites. And then a number of organizations said, you know what you've built, Acumatica, is perfect, and it's going to help us get into a cloud environment, into a browser-based deployment model much, much quicker. So we had a number of those OEMs and complementary solution providers build specific applications for manufacturing, service management, government contractors, housing management, just a few examples. So they built on top of that stack. And then, of course, sitting on top of all of that as well is what we like to call our connected complementary solutions. So for those of you, who are selling ERP today will be familiar with, solutions like Avalara that do the tax calculations. Solutions we have like Acumatica that provides application integration. Solutions like Fusion warehouse management software that helps address the requirements of companies focused on shipping and logistics, and so on. Too many to mention, but many that I'm going to give you at the end of today's presentation. We're going to leave you with a link to a bunch of resources, and Bradley is going to follow up after today's presentation and provide you with that link to those resources that's going to enable you to drill down and look at these in a lot more detail. So hopefully you see we're really addressing the end-to-end product stack, from the platform through to the application suites, with then solutions built on top of Acumatica and built with different technologies, but connecting to Acumatica through our web services application programming interfaces and through our cloud platform. Now you might be thinking, okay, Richard, well, talking technology for a second, what's all this built in? Well, our solutions are all built on top of the Microsoft .NET framework. And most of our cloud platform is actually additional components which extend out the .NET framework and make it easy for us to build high-volume transaction processing systems and give us the ability to deliver all of these different components. Okay, so that's the Acumatica stack. So then let's, before I dive into this topic of how do we address different market segments, what I'd like to do is I would like to jump across, and I'd like to give you right now a quick demonstration of what Acumatica looks like, just so you are familiar with it. Now this is the URL that you are able to use either right now or after our session today. All you need is a web browser to access Acumatica, and I don't mind whether you're using Safari, Firefox, some version of Mozilla, Opera, if you're running on a Mac, on Linux, on Windows, if you're using a Galaxy Tab, an iPad, an iPhone, whatever. All you need to do is just open up a web browser and type in this URL, which is www.tryacumatica.com. it's going to bring you into the Acumatica login screen. Now, this is a demo system, so don't panic when you see how simple the password is that I've got here. Obviously, you'd never set up a live system with a password this simple, but we want to make it easy for you guys to be able to go and review the solution after today's session. So all you do is you log in as admin, because we want to be the super user so I can show you everything. Well, I'm not going to show you everything, but I'm not going to be restricted in terms of what I can do inside the system. And the password is nice and simple, 1, 2, 3. All right, so it doesn't get much easier than that. So then I choose login. Now, first thing you need to know about Acumatica is, again, as I said, the only component that you need to access Acumatica is a web browser and an internet connection. So when you first log into Acumatica, what it's basically doing is it's going to give you a choice of the different companies, because Acumatica supports full multi-company and then multi-branch within those multi-companies. So you've got a whole different way, a whole group of ways that you can handle all of these different organizational structures and organizational scenarios. But the very first thing you'll see about Acumatica is that we begin with a role-based dashboard. Now, of course, if you don't want to start with a role-based dashboard, you don't have to, because all of this can be adapted to fit your customers' requirements. But we found this is the best way that most people like to work. I start with a role-based dashboard. So who am I? Well, I'm a sales manager. So here is my dashboard that has been set up specifically for me as a sales manager. And all of this is web-based HTML5 code. So I can see, here are my opportunities. Here's my salespeople sales. Here are the core opportunities that I've got that I'm working on. And of course, I can drill down from here into the individual opportunities. Let's say, for example, though, that I am a finance person. So I might want to use a financial dashboard. So what I've determined is I've got my financial dashboard, and here's another example of how you can set up your user interface with Acumatica, so that you can give people a very rich graphical way of navigating through the system rather than the traditional, menu-based structure. I might, for example, have a CRM dashboard, and here is an example of the business process that I use in CRM. I start off with leads. Maybe I import those leads, I assign them to salespeople, I then perform tasks. When I've got a lead, I might convert a lead to a contact or an opportunity. And then off a contact or an opportunity, I have contact reports and pipeline reports. I might then convert them to a business account, and they might be linked to a parent account for parent-child accounts. And then I might also need to take that business account and convert it to a vendor, a customer, or both. Okay? So again, the key to Acumatica is flexibility. And then you'll see, in order to navigate through the system, let's say, for example, I just want to generate a contact report. One click will go ahead and it will take me directly to that contact report functionality in Acumatica, and it will generate that report for me. All right? So very, very easy to navigate. Now, guess what? That navigation, that was just a URL. So assuming I've got access to Acumatica, I can send that URL to somebody through an email. They just click on it and bang, it opens them up into that screen after prompting them for their username and password, if you've set it up that way, or if you're using single sign-on and let's say they're already logged into Active Directory or they've already logged in with their Google ID, then we can support that as well. So that entire process is seamless. We can go one step further though, and we can say, you know what, the way that we want to navigate through Acumatica is through a checklist. So here's another example of a dashboard that we've set up that's simply a checklist. If this is a new customer, then click here to set up a customer account. Then click here to request the products you want to order. Click here to approve the request. Click here to create a requisition. And then what do you see happens? I'm now into my requisition creation screen. So navigating throughout Acumatica is very, very easy. Now a lot of people say, well, that's great. And I like the fact that with Acumatica, I can get in and out of the system very, very easily, and I can enter transactions very, very easily. But you know what? It's not just about putting the data in, it's about getting it out. And you'll see, as I'm navigating through Acumatica, I'm just using the web browser. So if you know how to use a web browser, you'll certainly know how to navigate your way through Acumatica. So let's say, for example, I've got all my contacts. I'm about to go on a road trip, and I want to take all of these contacts with me. So what do? I simply go here in any Acumatica screen. I can click one button, say Export to Excel. It now generates that export in Excel, and then because this is a web browser, what you're going to get is you're going to get the standard web browser pop-up. It's going to say, do you want to open or save the contacts? So in this case, I'm just going to say open. Up comes Excel, and of course I get my warnings. Hey, it knows this has come from a web page. Do I want to enable my editing? Yes, I do. Now, one of the other things, Acumatica is completely web-based. So what does that mean? There is a data connection automatically now from this, and it's a read-only data connection. Okay, I want to be clear on that, read-only. So what I've got is I have this, this link automatically through web services pre-built into my spreadsheet. So when I say enable content, I now take this spreadsheet, I'm sitting on the plane. Okay, I'm going through it, I'm reviewing all my information. I'm about to go into my meeting with my customers or my accountant, and I think to myself, well, gee, I want to make sure I've got the right information. I don't want to log into Acumatica and generate this report again. And guess what? You don't have to. Because if I go across here to data and I just say refresh, what you're going to see is you're going to see the system, Excel in this case, is just prompting me for my username, admin, and my password, 123, and through web services, it's automatically just connecting back into the Acumatica user interface, or back into the back-end data system, rather, and it's refreshing this spreadsheet. So it's a live, read-only link into the Acumatica solution. And when we talk about the power of a true cloud solution, this is an example of that. That this capability to use web services that many vendors are still talking about and telling you can do it, but you have to be a rocket scientist. That's not the case with Acumatica. We've made many of these things very, very easy to use. All right? Now, also when I'm in Acumatica, I'm able to navigate throughout the system very, very easily. There's full drill down right throughout the entire system. So for example, if I'm looking at this particular report, with one click, I can drill down and look at the underlying information. And you'll see, because we are a full browser-based solution, all of these browser technologies, the ability to have this come in as a pop-up, that's there. And we've made those design decisions already, but you can change that. Let's talk quickly about customization then. With Acumatica, being able to view everything in the Acumatica system is incredibly easy. If I want to customize any of these screens, I can do simple customizations like setting up filters inside the system. So I can go in here and I can create a filter, for example, and I can say, I want to create a filter that says where, you know, the salesperson is equal to a certain value, or where the position, let's say, is equal to CEO. And then I'll say OK. And then what it does, it applies that filter and it will only show me the contacts that are CEOs. But then quickly and easily I can remove that filter. So give you another example. I want to do that filter again, and I can say where the position equals, and I'll say developer. And I'll say OK, and I apply that filter, and now I just see the developers. But then, of course, I can take that filter and I can save it. And when I save it, I've got the ability to save it just for me or for everybody in the organization. So being able to make those kinds of changes into the system very, very quickly and easily is a core component of the Acumatica solution. Oh, by the way, if I want to see the company name first, I can just drag it and drop it across to where I want it to be. So if you know how to work in Excel, you know how to work in Acumatica. All right, it becomes that easy. And then I can sort and filter and so on and so forth. So I can sort ascending, and there's all my information. So very, very easy, and hopefully you're seeing how quick this is. Now, I want to let you know, this demo system that I'm accessing right now, I'm sitting here in Seattle, but this demo system is actually running from a data center in Australia. So wherever you are in the world, if you access this URL, you're accessing a data center in Australia. So what does that mean? That means you can deploy your solution anywhere you want. You can run Acumatica on-premise, so you can take all of the software, install a machine that has SQL Server and Internet Information Server, and then deploy Acumatica on that infrastructure and just run it browser-based in-house. What we like to think of as, that's another way of looking at private cloud, if you like, because cloud is really just about the technology stack. You can then sell the software to a customer, and then they can say, you know what, I want to take that software and I've got a personal preference. I want to deploy this on a server which is sitting with a particular company. So you can take the software and you can deploy it with their hosting provider of choice. You may have a hosting provider that you work with, or you may actually have a line of your business that is involved in the provision of hosted solutions. You might want to deploy Acumatica into that environment. You can do that. Or you can use our full software as a service deployment, where we will take care of everything. So in that particular instance, we have our software deployed as a service running on Amazon Web Services. So we have our software available in pretty much all of the AWS zones. So when you sell a customer and they're in New York, well, we'll put you on the Eastern Zone. If you sell a customer and they're located in Los Angeles, then we'll put you on the Western Zone. If you sell a customer and they're located in Singapore, well, we'll put you on the Singapore Zone. All right? So we take care of all of that provisioning and we take care of all that management. The customer just pays a single fee and then they have access to that solution and we do all the management and maintenance. And of course, as a reseller, you then are the partner that looks after them. You do the implementation, or you work with one of our other implementation partners if you've just decided you wanted to sell the solution. And then you know, you have access to manage that environment, and of course you then make a margin on providing that solution. And we're not going to get into a specific detailed discussion about margins, because I know many of you are already talking to Dawn, who introduced our session today. And if you're not already and you want to talk in more detail, Dawn will be able to take you through our margin structure. But our margin structure is the best in the industry. Okay, and I can say that without fear of contradiction. All right, but Dawn will be able to, and Brad will be able to talk to you more about those specific topics. So, what have we covered off on so far? We've talked about the solution, we've talked about the technology, we've talked a little bit about deployment options. One more piece that I did want to show you, because it's very, very important, is this idea of any device anywhere in the world. So if I go in now and I change my screen layout, so I've now just resized my browser, I want you to watch what happens with Acumatica. Now, a better way of looking at this is to look at it from, say, for example, a sales order screen. So let's say I'm out on the road and I want to enter my sales orders remotely. Well, I can go in here and I can go into my sales order entry screen, and there it is. This is my sales order entry screen. Okay, I put all my header information here and the lines are down here. But let's say I'm working with a different size screen. Watch what happens with Acumatica. We have responsive design built in, so as the screen size changes, the application automatically remaps out all of the functionality that's available to you. So you'll see I've gotten to that point where the screen is narrow, so it's moved all of this functionality in the line details down the bottom. But that was fairly wide and there are a lot of tabs. Where have all those tabs gone? Well, they've just automatically moved in here underneath a tab concentrator, if you like. As my screen size changes, the screen automatically redraws, and you'll see how quick that is because we're taking advantage of HTML5 technology, utilizing technologies like Ajax. Okay, so we're using asynchronous JavaScripting and so on and so forth. So, you know, you are working with an application like Acumatica, which takes advantage of all the latest technology. Oh, and by the way, I don't want to see this slide navigation pane. No problem. Get rid of it. Maximize your screen space. Okay? These buttons, all nice big buttons so you can navigate quickly and easily through Acumatica utilizing your touch device of choice. But at the risk of sounding like a late night television salesperson, but wait, there's more. Because with Acumatica, not only do we deliver this core functionality that you're seeing here, we also deliver native applications for iOS and Android devices. All right, so if you're using an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 6 Plus like I do, we deliver an application that automatically takes these screens and does a little bit of extra work and renders them in a format specifically for that device. So I could just use Safari on iOS or Chrome on Android and access this standard screen, or I can use one of those native apps. And you'll see in the information that we're going to make available to you after today's presentation, you'll see all of that is available to you. Okay? Then a couple more things I want to show you, then I'm going to wrap up our demo part because you, again, as I said, you have access to all of this functionality after we finish today, and we're going to give you a whole bunch of additional video demos that I'm going to take you through in person, okay, at a time that suits you. All right, so where was I going with that? But wait, there's more. If I'm using Windows, well, one of the things that you'll notice, I'm using Windows 8.1. We have an application that we call Expensibility. So this is an example of an application. You can download it free of charge from the Windows Store, and then all I do is I put in my URL for where my application is, okay, www.tryacumatica.com, put in my username and my password, and then I sign in. And what will you then see? A full Windows 8, let's call it the Metro style. I'm still stuck in that old way that they used to talk about it, that Metro style user interface, where I can now see all of my expenses. So this is a specific example where we built an expense tracking application for Acumatica. And again, and you'll see it takes advantage of all of these standard functions in Windows. So I can go in and I can set all my settings in here and so on. I can go in and I can access the different functional areas in the application utilizing standard Windows 8 functionality. So if I want to add an expense claim, I go in here and I say add expense claim. So if you're using a Windows phone, if you think about it, the most commonly used applications for mobile devices are things like expense and time tracking. All those applications are already there. And then, by the way, when I'm creating my expense claim, once I start adding expenses, as soon as I want to take my document, I can go in here, I can say attach file, and then I can link my expense, my receipt from OneDrive, or I can take a photo of it from my phone built into my camera. Okay? And then whatever I do in here is automatically available here inside Acumatica. So that's it. That gives you a little bit of an overview of all those different areas. Again, I'm the product evangelist. I love my product. I could talk for hours about the product. Not because I love talking, although my teenage kids will probably tell you otherwise, but because there is so much you can do with Acumatica that will help you solve customers' business problems and help them unlock their business potential. And that's really an important point. So, next thing I want to talk about is, you know, so far you've been listening to me talk about Acumatica, but you know what? Vendors are well known for getting overly excited about their products. So one of the things that I did want to do is I wanted to give you access to some additional testimonials, if you like, from some of our partners. So after today's session, we're going to give you access to a number of these testimonials. I know we've only got a very limited amount of time to talk with you today, but you're going to have additional questions. So we can give you access to additional testimonials where you can hear from some of our customers. So for example, let's take a look at one of these testimonials from one of our customers, which is Daniel Long. Now just quickly, before we go into this, I just wanted to give you also an example of one of the things that's beneficial about being an Acumatica partner. What we're constantly doing is we're looking at different ways of making it easy for you as a partner to learn about the product, but not only learn about the product, to sell the product, to make it easy for you to share information with your existing customers and your potential customers. So we are utilizing tools like what you're seeing right here on the screen now, Demos on Demand, which gives us the ability to share this content with you and then gives you the ability to share this content with your potential customers. So after today's session, we're going to give you the ability to go and view this content, and you'll see that not only does it have this testimonial, and hopefully you are able to hear our audio. And so not only can you view this testimonial from Daniel, but you can hear from a number of our other Acumatica partners, and you'll be able to view that information. So you can see interviews with our partners, okay, talking about the solution. Again, all kinds of different partners looking at and talking about why they selected Acumatica as a solution and why they decided to focus on selling cloud ERP. So Brad is going to make this information available to you after today's session, and you'll be able to review these at your leisure. So not only are we going to share some of these partner testimonials with you, but you'll also have the opportunity to hear from some Acumatica customers. You'll have the opportunity to hear from Acumatica customers through these videos, these video interviews, but also specific, you know, if you like, promotional presentations. Okay, customer panel discussions, and we're also sharing with you information that was recorded very, very recently at our partner summit, where we brought all of our partners together and shared information with them. Okay, and I just got a little note there that you cannot hear the videos, and that's because I'm talking and I have put those videos into the background. But I just wanted to make sure that you saw how you can view this. So I'm not going to play these videos in our presentation today because we've got a couple more things we want to talk about, and we'll give you the ability to review these at length after today's presentation. But you'll also see, for example, presentations about the cloud ERP opportunity, as well as detailed presentations about what we're doing with our product from a product roadmap perspective. So I would encourage you to take the time after we're finished today to go through and view all of these sessions. Now the great thing about this content as well, if there are other people inside your organizations that you want to share this information with after today's presentation, you can simply go in here and you can choose to share that information with them via any one of these social networks, or of course you can forward this link, this URL to them, and then they can open up the presentation. And if you've got questions after today's presentation, you'll also be able to go in here and click Ask a Question, put in your name, your phone number that we can contact you on, your question, and then that will go through to Bradley Morrow, and Bradley will be more than happy to reach out to you after we're finished today. Okay? So again, a whole range of different partner testimonials, and again, I'm sorry that you weren't able to hear that audio. I do have a slight glitch in my audio loopback from the demo player through to the GoToMeeting platform. But again, I was only going to show you like 2 or 3 minutes anyway. You'll be able to scan through all of that content at your leisure. Now this is an example of how we also deliver our enablement to our partners. So whether it's demos of the software that you want to look at in detail, for example, we'll give you access to some demonstrations of the product functionality. We'll give you access to demonstrations of the different solutions that are available that work with the Acumatica platform. And you can view those from EDI through to business intelligence, through to the Avalara sales tax integration, solutions for not-for-profit manufacturing solutions and more. So you'll be able to view those. You'll be able to get a snapshot of some of our sales training and how we provide sales training for our partners to help you be successful with the Acumatica solution, as well as all of our sessions from our Partner Summit, where you'll see the way that we engage with our partners on a regular basis to make sure we're sharing information effectively. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we have some more of these customer case studies that you'll be able to go and view, not only the examples of the interviews, but also the traditional style of promotional video that you, as a partner of Acumatica, are then able to use to execute your marketing and demand generation campaigns. All right? So again, all of that information will be made available to you after today's presentation. You simply need to reach out to Brad and he'll be more than happy to continue to share as much additional information as you need to help you feel comfortable about continuing your discussion about becoming an Acumatica partner. So hopefully that's nice and clear. Hopefully I've answered a number of those key questions. So let's then toggle back into our presentation. Let's then talk for a second about the market opportunity. We talked about flexibility. We talked about flexibility in our solution. Our solution is primarily targeted towards mid-sized enterprises, but we have many partners today who have decided that they want to go after the small business segment. Why? Because small business is actually big business for those VARs. There are more than, just in the United States alone, there are more than 23 million small businesses in the US, and they account for 54% of all US sales revenue that's generated. So it's a big opportunity. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, can I take Acumatica into that market segment? Well, many of our partners came to us and said, we want to. So we built specifically a program, which we call the Acumatica Grow program, which is designed to help you take Acumatica in a multi-tenant, low-cost environment out to those smaller businesses who traditionally might not have been able to afford a solution like this. Helps you meet unmet demand, helps you differentiate yourself by taking a really strong, robust, cloud-based solution to those smaller customers and giving them one solution that they can start off with small. And we call it Grow because it then enables them, as their business grows, they don't have to replace their existing solution. They can move on to a more powerful platform that will then better support their operating requirements. And when I say a more powerful platform, all I'm talking about here is transaction volume. Okay? I'm just talking about the computing power that sits behind their deployment of Acumatica. I'm going to talk about the licensing in a second, because I think to a certain extent I'm trying to save the best till last. The Grow program also gives you, as an Acumatica partner, stable recurring revenue, and it gives you the ability, as your customer grows, to then take them to the next level of the Acumatica solution. So the reason why I'm talking about that is just to give you an example of how flexible we are. So then, speaking about flexibility and Acumatica as a solution, let's just go back one step. Acumatica is designed to be deployed in the cloud. You can deploy it on-premise, as we talked about, on premises. You can deploy it in a private cloud. But the thing that our customers and our existing partners tell us that really helps them differentiate Acumatica is, with Acumatica, you only pay for the computing power that you consume. You don't pay for your electricity based on the number of people who live in your house. So why should you pay for your enterprise resource planning software based on the number of users? So when you buy Acumatica, when you sell Acumatica to one of your clients, you will sell them a small, a medium, or large deployment. You will sell them the financial, the customer, the distribution suite, and then the combination of those two things determines the price, not the number of users. So you do not, and your customer does not pay for the number of users. Whether they have 1 or 1,000 users, the price is the same. Whether they have 1 or 1,000 customers accessing the built-in portal functionality that enables those customers to help themselves, to do self-service tasks, to place orders, to pay invoices. All of that functionality is also available regardless of the number of users that you are utilizing with the system. Okay. All right. And sorry, just checking there for any chat messages. I just got a little pop-up there. So again, the thing that differentiates Acumatica is that pricing model. So we talk about a unique pricing and licensing model. That's what it's all about. We don't charge for the number of users. If enterprise resource planning is all about unlocking business potential, which is all about making sure that everybody involved in the process can have access to the information they need, then why nickel and dime them to death when your customer puts their hand up and says, hey, I want to now bring my customers onto the portal, or hey, I have now just bought another company and I want to add another 50 users into the system. Do I have to go and buy 50 more users? No, you don't. You simply have to look at the functionality that they want to access, the transaction volumes and the computing power that they're going to need to run, and then we have a pricing calculator which helps you structure a price specifically for that customer based on the functionality that they use and the transaction volume and the computing power that they're going to need to have access to. Okay? So we're almost wrapped up and I'm going to throw open for Q&A. But quickly, you might be thinking, well, all this sounds great. Who are these guys at Acumatica, and are they the kind of organization that I want to do business with? Well, Acumatica, at a glance, we are the fastest growing cloud ERP company, and this has been independently verified and validated. We have more than 100 employees located around the world with support and development centers in the US, in Russia, sales operations in the US, in Mexico, in Canada, in Singapore. So we are truly a global organization. Founded in 2008 by a number of enterprise resource planning veterans, people like John Howell, Sergey Belasev, and Mike Chelkonnikov. And by the way, you may know Sergey Belasev if you are selling Parallels today, or maybe if you are an Acronis reseller. Those two companies are also owned by Sergey Belasev. He's a significant investor in those. And Acumatica is today owned by the founders and institutional investors like Almaz Capital and Visma, as well as we have investments from significant venture capital firms like Bain Capital, for example, through their investments that they've made through MYOB, a company based out of Australia. Okay, so here's just some of the numbers behind it. Strong growth, strong revenue growth year over year. And leading companies are choosing Acumatica because of that. Companies like MYOB and Visma, who have their own market share with their own core, let's call them legacy products, in the markets in which they're focused. Visma in the Nordics, MYOB in Australia and New Zealand, with hundreds of thousands of customers running their legacy applications. they've chosen to build their next generation cloud applications on top of the Acumatica Cloud XRP platform, taking advantage of the rich built-in ERP functionality which we deliver with Acumatica today. All right, so more information available to you after today's presentation, talking about what analyst firms think about Acumatica. But with that, what I'd like to do is I would like to now throw the floor open for our Q&A. So with that, I am going to go just quickly back to our opening slide, just so we have a placeholder there. And I'd like to throw the floor open for any Q&A and any questions that you may have. So with that, if you do have questions, please feel free to...
Thank you so much, Richard.
Great, fire away.
Thank you, Richard, so much. Great presentation. I do have a couple polls. This is Adrienne from ERP Bar. I'd like to launch a couple polls while we're announcing the questions. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the first poll. Let's see. Which ERP systems do you represent? If you could take a quick moment to answer if you represent Infor, Sage, Microsoft, QuickBooks, and you can select multiple ERP systems. If you could just take a quick second to answer that. And we do have a couple questions. Dawn, did you want to go ahead and read off some of the questions, and I'll share that effort with you?
Yes, yes. In fact, Richard, one of the most pressing questions is somebody that attended the session said, oh, this is great. We have a meeting at noon. How quickly can I get access to the Acumatica enablement site? So what you need to do is go to that site, and you'll see a little blue couple words that says not registered. So if you're not already registered, just click there, fill in your name and address and a couple other things, email address. And then, Richard, how long does it typically take before somebody might get credentials sent back to them for that site?
That sends an email through to me immediately, and then I hit the approve button, and they'll have instantaneous access. So usually within about 5 minutes.
Okay, good, good. So look for that. Then there were another couple people that had said, wow, we'd really like to get into and play around with the demo site, and they wanted to know what the username and password were again. So the username is admin, all lowercase.
Yes, all lowercase. Yep.
And the password is 123.
Yep, it doesn't get much easier than that. Okay, and just the thing to bear in mind is it is an open system, so don't go putting any private information in there. And by the way, we do refresh the data set every Sunday night to make sure that we start every week with a clean data set, just in case people have gone crazy in the system. And the URL, again, just in case anyone was asking that, it's www.tryacumatica.com. Or actually, you can even just put in tryacumatica.com and it will take you there as well.
Okay, and then another question here was, did Richard say that Acumatica is accessed in a multi-tenant environment?
Okay, yes, Richard did. So one of the things about the Acumatica product architecture is it is fully multi-tenant enabled. So not only can you have multiple companies with multiple branches, but in your infrastructure, we offer multi-tenant. So that's multi-tenant on the application server and multi-tenant on the database. So that means that if you are deploying Acumatica in your own data center, that you can reduce the cost of operations by putting many, many different tenants securely on the same piece of infrastructure. And that's really what cloud is all about. It's about making sure that you can deploy what you need cost effectively to the customers with a deployment model that makes sense for them. So yes, we do offer that.
All right, I think we had another question here too. Let me see. Oh no, I think at one point the screen sharing disappeared for one gentleman, so obviously that's not a question. There's one other question here that just kind of popped in. If you were to summarize the top 3 to 5 things that differentiate you as either a vendor or your product, what would those be?
Okay, well I can answer that, or Dawn, you can answer it, or why don't I give you my top 5 based on my, I'm sounding like an old man now, based on my 25 plus years of experience. I think the key things that differentiate Acumatica is the fact that we are 100% channel focused. The next thing that differentiates Acumatica is that we are 100% browser based in our technology. The third thing is that our pricing model is unlimited users. By far and away, when we hear from partners and customers, they tell us that's the one thing which made them go, wow, not only do I get access to all this functionality, I can access it from any device anywhere in the world, but I'm not getting nickel and dime to death if I want to give everybody in my company secure access to that. And just say, you might have people who just need to enter expenses. Well, why should you have to buy them a user license just so they can enter their expenses? With Acumatica, you don't have to do that. And then, of course, I think, because it's an area I'm responsible for, I think the way that we enable and we engage with our partners to help them go out and build their business and unlock their business potential as value-added resellers. I think that's one of the other key differentiators. So not sure if you got components that you'd like to add to that, Dawn.
Sure. I just think, from talking to the partners that have joined the channel, so many people say that really once they're on board, the thing that they enjoy so very, very much is that they have a renewed enthusiasm for working with a vendor that's responsive to their needs, and they feel like it's kind of back in the old days, let's say when GP was GP or when Nav just first started. There's a sense of camaraderie in the channel. And I think the other thing that many, many partners really enjoy is our flexibility, whether it's pricing, deployment, and the whole XRP platform. So if you have a vertical that you want to develop and go after, have at it. If you have this subset of small customers that you haven't been able to address before with an affordable solution, you have that with the GROW program. I think the flexibility and the way you can engage with us, that's probably the most refreshing thing that you would encounter. So we welcome your questions, your interest after the fact. You'll get a follow-up email from Adrian at ERP VAR that'll give you a link to this recorded session. As we mentioned, Brad will reach out and make sure that you have access to the testimonials and to the other site that Richard mentioned. And for those of you that care to go out to Acumatica enablement.com and request registration, Richard will be checking that shortly, so those that want quick access can gain that. So unless there are any other questions, it looks like we're at the top of the hour here, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dawn. I just wanted to make one comment. At ERP VAR, we get quite a few inquiries from customers that are looking for new ERP software systems, and we refer them out to the channel. We refer those opportunities out to channel partners like yourselves, and a lot of times the customers are going with Acumatica. So I really see you guys as a leader in the cloud, as a cloud solution provider, and see good things for you in the future just from the response that we're getting at ERP VAR.
Well, thank you. I couldn't appreciate that more. And in fact, a question came in that says, who do we contact to investigate further and start VAR registration process? Well, you can reach out to me, Dawn Jager. You'll get our contact information after this session, or Brad Morrow, and look for communication from him as well. So you'll have our contact information in the email, and we'll be happy to engage right away. And there was one other question, if we still have time, and it had to do with, let's see, it says, I only see workflow enabled through a GUI. Is there more than that along a BonitaSoft or other BPMS?
Absolutely. Yes, there is. So we enable that workflow, and in the link that you're going to get from Bradley a little later on, take a look at the Acumatica 5.0 demonstration. I'll also provide a link from another video from one of our partners called Acumatica, and they offer a complete drag and drop way of integrating between Acumatica and a whole range of other solutions. But you can also do it programmatically. I didn't crack open the source code and start showing you that, but through the tryacumatica.com site, you'll actually be able to open up our source code and see all the full documentation and details about how we do all of that. And of course, if you want to reach out to us for a detailed discussion on that, we'd be more than happy to have that discussion. One other website you may be interested in is our Acumatica Developer Network, and that's where we host a lot of our technical discussions, and that's at A for Apple, A for Acumatica, adn.acumatica.com. But of course, if you go to acumatica.com and click on the developer link in the top menu, it'll take you there.
All right, well, I think that's it. I think we answered all the questions, too, that came in via the chat. So thanks again to everyone for participating. We'll look forward to following up with you. And Richard, thank you for doing the presentation, and Adrian for hosting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, so much for spending an hour with us. We know it's hard to come by, and we're 7 minutes after, so we really appreciate your time. Everybody have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.